Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Of course, back here with Ross, and we're going to be doing a 2020 recap video. I know a lot of people joining, the kind of the Starco journey very recently. Wanted to get everyone up to speed, do a past year, jam it into a few minutes here, and go from there. Ross, first things first, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you?
Yeah, fantastic. Holidays around the corner. They said December was supposed to be slower, but it's been anything but. But
Yeah.
hey, hopefully a good end of the year. Look, I'll throw it to you. Do we want to talk? Go through accomplishments, able to really list a lot of the big things that happened, and go from there.
Yeah, I think maybe what may be just important for people that are starting to follow the company, and we've actually had a lot of incoming communication on questions and sort of understanding the chronology and whatnot. So just for everyone's edification, the team at the Starco group really kind of took control of this public entity in 2017, and we really took that year to really make sure that the company was structured appropriately. There was, movement on the cap table. We brought a lot of interesting people and firms into the company that were highly strategic. And then, really, in 18, it was about analyzing our intellectual property coffers and really deciding what products we're going to be launching and what really made kind of I should say what really honed in on us being able to fulfill the promise of our mission. And the mission of the company is, to really launch and create behavior changing technology. And so if there's technologies that we're looking at that are still significant economic opportunities potentially, but they're me too's, they just don't really make the cut. And so we got to make sure that's aligned. And so 2018 was really about that. And we identified really about 50 technologies that we thought were highly novel that would be launched kind of in the company's future. And then we honed in on what would be launched in kind of 2018 and 19. And so, those of you that know, we launched the Breathe household cleaning aerosol line, which was the first aerosol line to ever become EPA Safer Choice approved globally and in history. And we really went after that aerosol cleaning sector in the stores. And we were such a sort of paradigm shift of what was traditionally out there. This was, products that the juice was holistically biodegradable, but the propellant was just compressed air. And that had never really been done in that sector before. And so that really launched. And so we launched through some very close distributors to us, companies called UNFI and KeHE, which are several $billion distributors. And that gave us some real exposure into opening some doors very, very quickly. And then we went ahead and did some larger deals to companies like, Home Depot and Lowe's. And then we also launched in another category, which was our Winona popcorn spray that I think very well now. Um, there it is. So again, looking for behavior change, right? And so the thesis of that product is you kind of take your seasoning and shake, 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 and it's all at the bottom of the bowl. And now you sort of have this new tool to kind of spray and create uniformity. And when you have a warm bowl of popcorn, and releases a tremendous aroma when you spray it on there, and also an aerosol, but powered by air, and a non-GMO formula, and very low cal, and aesthetics and marketing that was really geared to the demographic, which is families and kind of, millennial and younger, and kind of kids like it. And, little did we know that we were going into this year of COVID and everyone would be at home and streaming and movie night and whatnot. And so that product's really, found its footing regarding its distribution. So we launched that product with Walmart nationwide. That's done very, very well. Same store sales, year over year just is significant growth. Basically doubling each year. We've landed a couple other chains like HEB, which is a very large grocery chain, and some others to speak of. And so so that line, along with Breathe, in 2021 has got, significant line extension coming that we're super excited about, different flavors for this product line. And lastly, what we wanted to do is launch one more line, and we wanted to launch that in personal care. And so we launched the sunscreen brand called Hanu, which hanusunscreen.com. Winona products are at bingeworthyflavor.com. I don't know if we went over, that's a new consolidating site for that. And then for the Breathe line, there's also a consolidating site. It's called Spray Hello, which is kind of fun and poppy. And so those are kind of the destinations for all those products, and then all their social channels as well. But for Honu, again, we had to have behavior changing and very novel tech. And so Honu in Hawaiian means sea turtle. And if you've ever seen that product, it's, you know, got this ratcheting spray arm that you can ratchet up and down for hard to reach areas. And so, you know, the tagline is kind of, you can protect your shell. But what we did from a formulary standpoint is there was many SPF active ingredients. There's about 15 that are approved by the FDA for SPF, like in the United States, sunscreen's considered an OTC. But over the years, there was a couple SPF actives that were considered to be bad actors. There's a chemical called oxybenzone. There's another one called octinoxate. And there's another one called homosalate that we think is on the chopping block. But those two first ones, they're pretty much recognized as hormone disruptors. And they think that's what's kind of screwing up the reefs, and they're finding them in tissues, and not the greatest products. They're really good at absorbing SPF, but they've got these sort of downsides. So we kind of saw that coming like 3 years ahead. So we formulated products with no oxybenzone, no octinoxate, and no homosalate, and achieved without them SPF 50 and filed patents for it. And it also has up to 80 minutes of water resistance. So when you package that formulation into this component packaging in Honu with the ratcheting arm, it's really a win-win product. So that line's really kind of designed for the outdoor enthusiast, you know, someone that's out there surfing that needs a protection and can't get the coverage, or someone that's out there mountain biking or golfing or whatever it may be. This really allows them to get, you know, lower back, lower hips, up on the shoulders, into the neck, places that you can't really reach to. And you know, skin cancer is a really big thing. So we're a big proponent of finding the right kind of protection. And so we launched that product initially through about 1,700 Walmarts, kind of as a end aisle kicker for the season. And that was, you know, a really fun launch. And now coming into this next year, there's going to be some line extension on that, and some equally disruptive products and technology that's going to be coming in and out of that line. So those were kind of the three that we wanted to set in terms of the market. And so as we launched, kind of coming into like the end of 18 and 19, as we sort of started to seed some of our distribution and really support some of those retailers, what we did coming into 20 was, you know, early on, we had done a very large corporate deal with a $13-14 billion marketing agency holding company called IPG. And one of their agencies was a company called Deutsch Marketing, that is sort of best-in-class marketing agency. And so we brought Deutsch in to really curate all of our aesthetics and our marketing and our look and our feel and in-store marketing and the entire kind of design ethos that we were going after for each of the product lines. And they were able to execute and really bring in data of research groups and focus groups to see really where they fit. And so if you take a look at the design for, say, Breathe, you know, this is not like your average, you know, scrubbing bubbles or 409, et cetera. This is, they're beautiful, and they're very on trend. And they're, you know, kind of designed for sort of next generation. You know, we call them countertop worthy. So we wanted the technology in the can as well as the product to be extraordinarily disruptive, behavior changing, leading edge, but we also wanted the aesthetics to resonate as well. So we did that with each of the product lines, and I think that's sort of evident if you take a look at the product lines. And so that took care of like agency of record needs for the product. And then sort of in the center, you have kind of all of our infrastructure and the logistics and the manufacturing and the financing of inventory and all of our vendors, vendor numbers that we have at retail, and the insurance to be able to do business at scale. So everything was sort of housed within our infrastructure, within the Starco group that we could play off of in Starco brands. And so as they were coming to market, we sort of put them out there, started to get distribution and service them. But what we were really missing, and what our strategic plan was, is to really focus on now the media, the pull through. How are we going to advertise and pull through? And we're going up against major entities. So how do we think that we're going to fight that fight? Because we're not big proponents of raising, you know, very expensive venture capital and sort of, you know, diluting all of our shareholders to a certain extent. We really wanted to use a different I would say, thesis of trying to really grow the organization. And the way we think of it is really the amalgamation of brain trust, strategic partnerships, as we did with IPG, who came in as a vested owner of the business to provide agency of record services for equity, which was a really innovative way to, and they had never done a deal like that before. And the industry had never seen a deal done like that before. So we brought that same thesis of deal structuring and bringing in parties that could be strategic service providers. We also did that on the media side. We struck a absolutely landmark deal with Hearst Media. You know, Hearst Media is I think that they're just south of about a $20 billion enterprise. When you look at eyeballs online on a monthly basis, like number 1 and 2 is like Google, Facebook, and number 6 is Hearst. They're an absolute behemoth. And they own some of the, most famous and legacy brands in consumer products. They own Good Housekeeping. They own Esquire, Road and Track, Car and Driver, Cosmos 17. They've got big interests in A&E and ESPN. They're the editor for Oprah magazine. They've and their digital properties are tremendous. They own Delish.com, which I think is like number 2 behind the Food Network. And so the idea is that we would partner with Hearst, and then we'd find appropriate brands underneath their umbrella to take our products and really do a collab, almost like a co-branding initiative. And for each of the products that they were involved with, they would have a stake in those products. And so what that meant is that they would come to the table with a very specific advertising budget, depending on the product or the product line. It'd be anywhere between like $2 and $5 million of advertising on an annual basis for that specific product within the platform that you're co-branding with, but also in the larger platform of Hearst. And so it became, this ideological forum of sort of setting up the business and saying, this is really a vertical integration of all of our needs based on doing partnerships and amalgamating that brain trust. It's outside of capital. Remove the capital. It's creating a model where there's, equal benefit for everyone that provides their area of expertise, and everybody can really participate in the wealth creation as well as return that to shareholder value. And so this was a very novel model to try to execute. And so that was a huge thing for us to pull off in 2020. And anybody that's really following the products, have seen the media, right? I mean, we've been all over the Good Housekeeping. We've been all over sort of Delish. We've been in the Oprah magazine. We've been in House Beautiful. We've been in, the reality is, and the way we run our social media, like if you look at, say, even my LinkedIn profile for our posting, that continues to post every single advertisement and media thing that you can see. So you can really track the products very well. And that's been a huge success. And we've had resounding feedback from our retail partners because it's the support that they need, right? They may be smitten with the products. It may be differentiating for them on shelf. The margin profile for them may be great, but if it's not, if the manufacturer isn't taking responsibility for getting it off the shelf as well, then the partnership falls down. And so we've made a real concerted effort to do that, and we're starting to really reap the rewards. Now, the other thing that happened in 2020 is the world went into a pandemic, and it was overly challenging and arduous from a manufacturing standpoint. I mean, early in the game, we had facilities go down because of infection for certain times. We had to bring in third-party cleaning crews and testing, and it was wartime manufacturing. And so, but once we started to sort of garner our footing on how to behave, in this moment, and we started to kind of get things back on track, kind of around that March and April. You got to remember that the Starco Group, the private company that's private label and does contract manufacturing, that business has been making hand sanitizers, gels for since the 90s. And early on, we sort of had early warnings that something was going on. We heard about this coronavirus, and all of a sudden we had some supply chains over in Asia that were sort of tightening, and there were some issues. And then we saw it on the other side with retail demand planners. Demand planners started to spike for things like hand sanitizer and disinfectant. So we had some early warnings. And what ended up happening to the hand sanitizing market is that the supply chains broke. Like you couldn't get enough bottles, you couldn't get enough caps. It was extraordinarily challenging. And then hand sanitizers is a product that's controlled by the FDA. It's considered to be an OTC, but because there wasn't enough product to meet the demand, the FDA came in and lowered the bar, and they said, never mind being a pharmaceutical business to make this stuff. If you're a personal care business or if you're a distillery, we'll allow you guys to make it too. And that sort of flooded the market with a bunch of hand sanitizer. Some of it was okay, and some of it was really not okay. And people were getting burned in industrial alcohols, and there was returns, and they had their hands full. But at least there was enough product in there to sort of suffice the frontline workers and whatnot. But the way that we saw that whole scenario was that we wanted to focus in on supply chains that hadn't broke. And so we looked very close to home and found that, aerosol supply chains were pretty stable. And so it dawned on us to think, well, why isn't there a spray hand sanitizer, especially one that can be produced as a spray with compressed air, like the rest of our technologies? So we filed patents for the hand sanitizer, and we immediately launched it underneath Breathe because we thought the brand elasticity was wonderful for personal care. And we immediately launched the product in all 15,000 stores with Dollar General. And, we went, supplied this through all Home Depots and Lowe's, and it was a 5 ounce. And then we came out with a 1 ounce travel spray. And then recently we won an approval that gave us the permanent SKU placement at Home Depot for the spray hand sanitizer. We just landed the permanent SKU placement for the only spray hand sanitizer in all Home Depots, the 5 ounce and the 1 ounce at every single till, every checkout, which is just an enormous contract for the business, and we're super elated to have it and excited. And that product is kind of selling everywhere and has had tremendous media. And you see, again, it wasn't that we wanted to launch it as a hand sanitizer because hand sanitizer was popular in the moment. We wouldn't have done that. It had to fit our modus operandi of being behavior changing, right? So most, when you see hand sanitizer, they're usually gel products and you squirt them on your hands, and it's sort of a very intimate, self-applicating product, right? But you don't squirt that in your hand and then go rub down 100 people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you take a spray product, and it's the first product that you can actually turn onto the world. So like, mom or dad can say to their kids, okay, kids, line up, put out your hands, and like, you get it all in one fell swoop. But if it's good enough for their hands, it's good enough for a lot of different applications. And it makes everybody really, from a disinfecting standpoint, everyone's now self-armed to kind of sanitize not only themselves, but their environments. And as, our communities and our countries and so on and so forth try to build herd immunity in this moment, that's a really helpful tool. And it's a behavior change when we think of sanitization, skin, and hand sanitizer. So that checked all of our boxes. And so that's just been an enormous success. And so, look, I think what's important for people is to sort of, yes, understand history and how this thing came to be, why it came to be, the assets that we have from manufacturing and distribution and marketing and media, because those assets alone are, for a company that is far, far beyond the proverbial startup phase. And that's why I was so adamant that we wanted to have this in a publicly traded vehicle for so many reasons. There's so much intrinsic value that is sort of proverbially being dumped in at the get-go. And then it's just about really the market learning about myself and our team and our execution capabilities. And so if history is any key to our future, you can kind of look at what we've done in the last 50 years, the organizations, the companies we've built, and now understanding the deposition of all of that material into this company, that to me, that was a sort of fascinating equation. And then to sort of say, okay, well, what's been done? And so the products that have been commercialized, the partnerships that have been garnered, the distribution that's at play, and where the company's scaling to. And the other thing I like about a public enterprise is the results are tracked. So anybody that has interest in the business, you please go read our historical cues. Understand where we were. Understand that we had a burn rate and where we were operating at. And then understand when we broke that and then came into profitability. And you can start to see what happened in I think it's two quarters ago, you could sort of see where things really started to pitch from an accretive standpoint of how much capital was now starting to drop to the bottom line. And then that was really sort of further identified in our last Q, where you could see the growth, and you could see, for the first time, the company had just like deposited, on the company's balance sheet, extensive amounts of capital for the first time. And this is without a capital raise. And so this is kind of the reason why at this stage in the ball game, for the first time, we're starting to put our face in the wind, right? Because it's at this time where we want people to understand our story. And in the first couple of years, there was a lot of activity that was going on when we, had our head down and we're just trying to build out the model and the business and sort of the proof of concept. And now you're kind of at this point where the business is starting to scale. So, listen, 2019 and 2020 have really gone according to plan. We're super excited for 2021. We've got technology coming out in food, in personal care, in household, and we've got some stuff coming out in spirits that is, again, they have to hit the mission of the business. They have to be leading edge, behavior changing. And so, honestly, we're just thrilled to be a part of it. We're thrilled to be disrupting some of the markets that we're in. And it's been a wild year.
Yeah. No, here. Well, I'll take a few minutes here. No, you did a great job. You teased 2021 stuff, which we will do a video coming up. But it is great. You guys are in thousands of stores. You're selling tons of product. And you really gave people the whole kind of past, not only past year, but past couple years, where things are going. Obviously the products, what's being added on top, and a lot of good insight for people that are just kind of finding out about the company, recently. So thanks so much for doing that. Again, I do invite anyone with questions, understand, kind of throwing a bunch of stuff at you and really jamming 3 years or a whole year into, a few minutes here. If there's questions, please don't hesitate to leave them below. I do expect to do a Q&A video coming up, as well as, of course, answer any questions in the comments. We will find answers for you. Ross, I think this was great. Is there anything you wanted to add on top? I think you did a good job summing a lot of things up, new products, how you got to certain places, talk to, of course, the mentality really of the business and of yourself. Anything you wanted to touch on?
No, I think we covered it. Wishing you guys great holiday season, wishing everybody safety and health. And, for those that have suffered in 2020, hoping that 2021 is a whole lot better for everybody.
Yeah, perfect. Oh, awesome. Well, we'll leave it there. Again, I invite anyone with questions, please drop them below. But Ross, thanks so much for joining.
Thanks.